Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ daily news television show, broadcasting live and available on demand on your favorite streaming channels.
We are proud to announce that YouTube has recognized Queer News Tonight, certified by analytics company vidIQ, as the world's most popular LGBTQ streaming news show. Our queer stories have reached about 10 million views.
We are proud that we have more than 1,000 new subscribers in the last month, and that Queer News Tonight has more YouTube subscribers than any other LGBTQ brand in Florida.
Over 500,000 of you have watched this show in the last 90 days. We thank you for watching and supporting our voice in the LGBTQ community.
There is no other news program in the LGBTQ world like Queer News Tonight.
It is Tuesday, April the 8th, and we are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we'll tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
You're watching Queer News Tonight, the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Welcome to the world's most important LGBTQ evening news show.
Hotspots magazine, Happening Out Television Network, is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ community.
Our nonprofit mission is to support the 11 pillars of our LGBTQ community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of lesbian, trans, Latino, Black, healthcare, seniors, students, faith, social justice, business, and queer culture. Help us support our diverse community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ nonprofit media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
In 2025, our magazine is celebrating 40 years of the LGBTQ experience, and Queer News Tonight is celebrating our 5th anniversary with more than 10,000 LGBTQ television stories. We will produce the 25th anniversary for our Stonewall Pride Parade and Festival on June 14th. We present Pride Fete in August and Pride Fort Lauderdale in February. Our magazine, events, television news, talk, and entertainment shows all support our mission to educate the LGBT community and broader communities.
In 2025, more than 100 community leader anchors will host this show to support the LGBTQ community. Let's meet today's anchors at Queer News Tonight. Let's welcome anchor Mark Gilbert. Mark has championed LGBTQ+ storytelling for over 2 decades through his dynamic leadership with the Outshine LGBTQ+ Film Festival. A longtime board member and former executive director, he's transformed Outshine into a vibrant, inclusive cultural destination. Mark, the Outshine Film Festival comes to South Florida in April. Tell me what's happening.
Sure does, Jeff, and we couldn't be more excited. The 27th spring edition of the Outshine LGBTQ Film Festival, actually our 43rd, Jeff, our 43rd film festival is here and ready for you to enjoy. We kick it off on April 17th in Miami Beach with our opening night film, On Swift Horses, at the Regal South Beach on Lincoln Road, followed by an incredible night after party. The festival continues in Miami Beach with nonstop great films through Wednesday, April 23rd, where we then move to the Regal Dania Beach for our centerpiece film, a really insightful film about secrets of this man that made the Beatles, Brian Epstein. You know Brian Epstein, Jeff?
I do.
The guy is, what a story. I was shocked when I saw that movie. It's followed by a great after party, and then we're off to Lauderdale for our closing weekend of the festival at the Gateway. We wrap it all up on April 27th at the lovely Savor Cinema with our closing night film, Four Mothers, a film many of you can totally relate to, I think. Another fabulous closing night party follows, but it doesn't end right there. You can also watch some of these films in the virtual part of our festival, Outshine at Home. And that's where you get to kind of lay back on your couch and chill, and that's going to happen April 28th to May 4th. Our guests will enjoy impactful queer stories. These are stories that are promoting inclusivity and awareness, meeting new people, making new friends. Outshine offers all kinds of membership packages starting as low as $90 with exclusive offers and access to all kinds of events and screenings and parties. It's a lot of fun. So make sure you get your tickets right now. Of course, for more details, you can go to outshinefilm.com. Jeff, and everybody, I know you guys have all pretty much attended the festival. We know how much fun it is to go to. For me, it's a time for our community to come together through film. These are our stories. We all can go to straight movies all the time, and we do it. Let's face it. We love movies. But when you see stories that represent our lives played by people that have some similarities in all kinds, love and comedy and drama and everything in between from all over the world, that's what makes Outshine so special. You been there, Jeff?
I've been there many, many times, and I tell everyone, we've talked about this recently, I love that Outshine has now expanded to doing events year-round as well, because again, it gives a lot of opportunity to come together. There's so many films packed into 2 weeks that you can't go to every film every night of the week, which I wish I could, but there's a lot of great films to see, but I like how you're spacing out all these events throughout the year, and it's a great place for our community to come together. It is something that's outside of being in a bar, it's outside of being in a party setting, but it's a great way to bring conversation together. There's a lot of topics that we don't get to talk about, or if we go to Regal Cinemas or any of the other movie theaters, it's usually 8 screens of a Marvel movie. So it's great that we get to see stories, impactful stories that show our diverse community on screen.
And I love that you're not just doing it in a theater. I love that you have 2 outdoor showings on Miami Beach. I think that's really awesome and exciting. And there's 2 movies that I would definitely want to see. How to Marry, was it Who Wants to Marry an Astronaut? Me. That one looks like it's a lot of fun.
To Fly You to the Moon, is that the idea behind it?
I saw Fly You to the Moon. That was fun, but this sounds like it's a lot more fun. He's supposedly been in like a 15-year relationship, and he decides that he's going to propose marriage while they're on a road trip on Route 66, and he proposes, and I guess the guy says no, and so he's decided he still wants to get married, and he has 10 days to find his next new love. So I thought that would kind of be a fun, humorous, romantic comedy. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. What I was saying, the film festival is our chance to see our stories on the big screen, and there's something that makes it so special when we see us, not them all the time. We see us with our stories being told. I find that just exhilarating. And it's such a great time because people come together for our parties and, like you said, Jeff, talk and enjoy the time together. That's essential.
And I mentioned this before, but the last time we did an Outshine story, they said that since COVID, about 1,000 independent movie theaters have closed. And Outshine, of course, we have, some of your showings are at some of the big chain theaters, but they're also at the independent theaters. I know you've done some events at the Cinema Paradiso in Hollywood, which again is so important because if we lose those theaters, we're going to lose places that can show those small
Gateway
type
up
of
here in
films.
Lauderdale's another one.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that because Cinema Paradiso is such a cute little community right in the middle of downtown Hollywood, and they really get some great movies.
We do.
Yeah.
We just had some movies for the Fort Lauderdale International Film Festival.
Yeah, it's hard to find these little theaters. The Gateway, such a gem right in the middle of the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. You guys know what a neighborhood is?
Yeah, slightly familiar.
Well, that is a big story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. And we look forward to seeing you at the Outshine Film Festival throughout the month of April. Let's welcome anchor Gil Ponce. Gil is a relationship-driven nonprofit executive and political strategist, currently the executive director of the NextGen Chamber of Commerce. Formerly with Options magazine, he brings decades of experience in LGBTQIA+ advocacy, development services, and grassroots fundraising. Gil, the NextGen Chamber of Commerce listening tour begins on April 23rd. Tell me what's happening.
The NextGen Chamber of Commerce, we're launching our listening tour in Phoenix, Arizona on April 23rd at the Arizona State University West Valley campus from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., obviously Pacific Coast time. And we're looking to talk with a whole bunch of emerging business leaders across the country about the issues that matter most to them at the end of the day. For more details, you can visit the nextgenchamberofcommerce.org, or you can email me directly at gil@nextgenchamber.org for more information or for any corporate members who are interested in coming on board as sponsors. And thank you to Amazon Square for their current support.
So do you do this listening tour throughout the country? Or is this like this is the start of the listening tour?
This is the start of the listening tour. We're going to be going to 6 cities. We're going to be doing Phoenix. We're going to be doing Charlotte. We're going to be doing Philly.
Charlotte?
Yep, Charlotte. We're going to be doing Philly. We're going to do Denver, Minneapolis, and we're going to wrap it up in Seattle in September.
Nice.
At the end of this, what we're going to be doing is collecting survey data as well, to release a report alongside of all of our partners, and to make sure that NextGen, these emerging business leaders, had their voices heard on strengthening the future economy for long-term growth, preparing for the future of work, and ultimately responsible business and corporate leadership.
So I have a question. I never heard, forgive me, but I had not heard of NextGen before. And in like doing the little research the best that I could, I noticed that there's nowhere really on your website that directs it towards LGBTQ. Plus, I saw there's a whole statement about diversity, inclusion, and the next generation and stuff. But where do your membership come from? I mean, because you're based in Washington D.C., but you're doing like this talk in Arizona. Like, how are you branching? And is it part of the National Chamber of Commerce system or the LGBTQ Commerce?
Well, we are not a part of the National Chamber or the LGBT Chamber, even though we are actually in a coalition with them through the Small Business Roundtable. But ultimately, what the NextGen Chamber of Commerce does is we represent the next generation of business leaders. And as we know, these NextGen business leaders are absolute and they're resolute in their value set. And we want to make sure that they have a seat at the table with market makers, policy makers, advocates. And that is inclusive, all inclusive of LGBTQ, our BIPOC communities, making sure that everyone is represented, which is why I'll say, while I have the camera, our friends over at the Phoenix LGBT Chamber, I really hope to see you at our listening tour.
You know, there are so many different companies right now that are choosing which side of the aisle to sit on. And if you look even in retail, at, let's say Target versus Costco, Target's taken a position that certainly not anti-gay, but they've given us some problems in the past, where you have Costco that says, bring it on, welcome everyone. What are you finding in the corporate world as far as diversity and LGBTQ inclusion?
In the corporate world, depending on the organizations that you talk to, regardless of the public posturing that you're seeing, what you're seeing behind the scenes is there's still commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think people are just choosing to abridge the traditional, what we like to call the traditional words of DEI, based on, quite frankly, the current political climate. But otherwise, I do see organizations that are still very much into the initiatives of DEI without necessarily calling.
But are they afraid to stand up and speak out?
It depends on who you talk to. That's how I'll phrase it. I'll say that my corporate partners have been incredible to us, incredibly supportive. They're diverse organizations. And of course, we're always looking for more corporate partners. So feel free to reach out to me.
Well, I expected you to say that, to be honest with you. But what I'm kind of asking is, what have you heard as far as companies being afraid about retribution? Are you hearing a lot of that? Are you hearing concern in the business world about supporting us?
In my experiences talking with folks in the social impact circle, corporate social responsibility, I haven't heard a lot of that. Obviously, in different wings of different companies, there can be those concerns, but I have not heard that inside of the corporate social responsibility sphere.
And I would imagine that this NextGen group is more progressive than the broader community, or would that be an assumption? I mean, because it's a younger set of people who don't see DEI, who have grown up in a world
normalized.
Where it was much more normalized, you know, not even just LGBTQ, but just diversity in general is more normalized.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those things we encounter that where a lot of folks, especially, not to age myself, I'm 29 going on 30. So obviously,
my God. I
was 29.
Is there any?
I'm 39 going on 40. We have a lot in common.
So ultimately, I grew up with these principles in practice, and quite frankly, a lot of these emerging business leaders simply just expect it to be in practice. So making sure that we're representing those views with our policymakers, market makers, advocates, and have them see things from a next-gen perspective as they're ultimately going to be leading this future economy. Right now, next-gen accounts for about 100 million in the workforce, and that's going to continue growing. As I say to every corporate prospect that I talk to, when I think about NextGen, I think about our next generation CEOs, C-suite executives, board chairs, so on and so forth.
What's the definition of next gen?
NextGen for us is very much an evergreen term. We fundamentally believe that this is anybody who's taking evolutionary steps inside their career. This can be somebody who's going off and starting their own business after being in the corporate sector. These can be people who are just starting out in the corporate sector and climbing up the corporate ladder. We want to make sure that we're encompassing everybody, so we don't bracket an age around it or anything. We want to make sure we're holistically inclusive of forwarding a next-gen message.
Great. Well, that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer and nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. And we look forward to seeing you at the NextGen Chamber of Commerce listening tour on April 23rd. Now let's welcome anchor Glenn Weinzimmer. He has been a South Florida advocate for over 30 years, raising awareness and more than $16 million for the HIV/AIDS community for the last 20 plus years. He is also a travel director and corporate events planner. Glenn, the Sunserve's Silver Serve Luncheon for queer seniors is on April the 11th. Tell me what's happening.
First, I want to know if I was profiled because I fill into that demographic and I'm wondering if I'm being pressured to go. Sunserve Silver Serve Luncheon, a monthly gathering for queer seniors and allies, returns on Friday, April 11th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Island City Park Reserve in Wilton Manors. The event is free of cost and provides a welcoming space for LGBTQ community members to connect over a delicious meal. Attendees are encouraged to RSVP online to ensure accurate catering preparations for any of those people with special dietary concerns. Free self-parking is available behind City Hall. For more details and to RSVP, visit sunserve.org. I actually looked at, I'm pretty familiar with Sunserve because I'm pretty good friends with Tony and stuff, and they do so much for our community, whether it's for youth, it's for trans. They've always had a strong presence for that and out there. And then they've taken a big active participation in helping seniors get out and get about. They've got a whole bunch of other programs besides this luncheon that they do. I actually wrote it down, so forgive me for looking down. But they do military and veterans groups. They have meaningful connection groups. They have mindful coping for stress, our time, which is arts and crafts, and therapy work happening at the same time. They have a weekly support group. So there's a lot happening there, you know, and regardless of what age group you fall into, I know they're doing a lot with youth housing right now, and they're actually working with Sunshine Cathedral on that. So, you know, kudos to them. I know they just had their, I sadly missed their gala they had 2 weeks ago. I was out of town, but yeah, they do a lot of good, and they've expanded their services quite a bit since Tony took over and Mark retired. So yeah, if anyone has time and wants to go, an ally, I guess you could be under 60 to go if you're an ally. Because what else would an ally be?
Well, that's a good question. I think that's really important.
Boys that love older men that are silver? Because that's the case, sign me up.
The senior community, especially in the LGBT community, is often forgotten. It was brought up, and I actually saw the space even this weekend at Miami Beach Pride. They had a seniors lounge that Cindy Brown hosted with the
also in Yiddish should be Altakakas.
Yes,
the Altakakas.
But
lounge.
you know, you think about, you know, it's 87 degrees out in Miami Beach, and you're going to see a Pride parade, and that's not the most welcoming space for someone of a certain age.
Well, they're cold usually. Even though it's 80 to 100 degrees outside, seniors usually want a little sweater around their shoulders.
Yeah, well, you know, and there's no space for water, or just they got to have a seat. So I was really happy to see that they did that. And, you know, I think we need more programming like that. Obviously, we have a large senior community here in Wilton Manors, getting older by the day. And, you know, a lot of the services that we have here, you know, need to be directed around catering to that community. And I think
we've seen a lot of that change in the last like 10, 15 years. I've been here for over 40. When I was here in my 20s, like there wasn't a large population of senior LGBTQ.
There was. You just weren't looking at them.
They were on Miami Beach on one of those chairs rocking, and no, I didn't look at them. But as our community of people that we know, and it's pretty expansive in the last 10 years, you know, coming into the 50s and 60s and 70s, you know, there is a greater need. There's a greater need for care. But, most men, gay men, don't necessarily have a child that's going to take care of them after when they reach a certain age. And so that whole question of what do I do next, or who takes care of me if something happens. So it's great to see these kinds of services popping up.
Oh, I agree. It's certainly a tough time. Seniors can go through some very difficult times without having a support system around that. No, I have to say my life is great. I can't complain. But I know the life, and it can be very difficult if you don't have family.
Right.
I'm one of those people that I'm lucky. I have 2 kids. I have 3 grandkids and a young boyfriend. So I'm in a good place. But that's rare, and that's new. Some of it, the new boyfriend is new. But I'm going to say something nice to Tony real quick. Tony, I love you. He's amazing.
That's your boyfriend? Tony Lee?
No, Tony's not my boyfriend. He wishes. But no, I love Tony so much, and he does such great work for our community. Sunserve is an amazing organization, and I love that we're building events like this that take care of people that, let's face it, when you're retired, there's not a lot to do all the time. And things like this are critical to take up the time and bring people together. So I applaud you for what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's great that they find people to take up the funding.
Yeah.
To be able to provide these luncheons for free for some of our older communities.
And Cindy's work. Oh, Cindy's work is great as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that is a big story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing. And Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at Sunserve's Silverserve Luncheon on April 11th. Let's welcome anchor Buddy Fry. He supports many of South Florida's local nonprofit organizations like Julian's Fountain of Youth and the Stonewall National Library Museum. Buddy, April 26th is Lesbian Visibility Day with Wilton Women's Week. Tell me what's happening.
Well, I've been told that the Wilton Women's Week, Skirt SoFlo, and Women with Pride are set to launch an exciting week of LGBTQ women-centered events on Saturday, April 26th at Hunter's Nightclub. From 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., attendees can enjoy a vibrant evening of music, community, and celebration. A $20 donation grants entry, a specialty drink, and access to music by the talented DJ Music Hat. The first 100 guests will receive exclusive Wilton Women's Week swag bags. Say that 3 times fast. Perfect Look Photo, a women-owned company, will capture unforgettable moments with its interactive photo booth. The event promises and sounds like a great night of fun, friendship, and support, with all the proceeds benefiting the Women with Pride program. Organizers aim to foster community and empower LGBTQ women. So for more information on this week-long celebration, visit WiltonWomensWeek.org. Let me repeat that. Visit WiltonWomensWeek.org. Now, obviously I'm being told this because I don't have a huge reach into the lesbian community.
And you're not a lesbian, right?
I'm not a lesbian this week. So, I'm just very excited to see this because women in the LGBTQ community seem to always kind of blend into the background. And so it's nice to see them take center stage for a change. And I've actually sent out this information to a couple of friends that I have both in Miami and in Palm Beach saying, hello, about time you showed up. Let's get out there and support ourselves.
I'm excited that they've got something going on for Wilton Women's Week,
Right.
Just a lot of W's. Because, like you said, when it comes to most events or most bars, there aren't a lot of lesbian bars or locations to gather because they tend not to find themselves in our community all the time. They seem to kind of more of homebodies or, sort of stereotyping them, but they're less likely to see them on a bar on a Friday night in mass or supporting their own community. So it'll be nice to see if maybe this angle brings more of them out and about and connecting their community to be strong.
Well, historically, there's less than 34 lesbian-owned bars and lesbian-oriented bars in the country left. So we need to, as a community, the lesbians have always historically supported the gay men, whether it be during the AIDS crisis in the 80s through 90s, or if it's, during the Stonewall riots, they were front and center and helping support us. So, the community at large needs to support Women for a Change. So it's exciting to see them have their moment.
I hope that women take this opportunity to get out of their house because it is tough. I'm going to tell you, with the Outshine Film Festival, we do so many events for women and getting attendance is difficult. And we have great films, great parties, and events like what you're talking about bring women together to make new friends, forge new relationships.
Exactly.
It's so important to take this opportunity and use it. Get out of your house. Go have some fun. Being together with other women is actually a great time. I love my lesbians at the film festival.
Well, and I think right now, politically, it's important that the women get out. I mean, so many of their rights are on the chopping block,
Right.
you know, whether it be right for reproduction, whether a lesbian is actually looking to reproduce or not, but it still affects their body. There's, you know, this whole action to try to take away the right to vote,
Right.
you know, or like going back to a period where you couldn't get a credit card as a woman unless your husband signed off on it. And as we look at our current state of the world and our nation, you know, their being out there is almost a statement at this point that they need to be visible because they need to be outspoken like they were during the AIDS crisis and things where they saw something that was important and meaningful and came out. And hopefully this is maybe a way to get people to come out and activate that activism that we need in their community to support all the things that our community is going through.
Yeah, I mean, the programming for this, we did a story about this when they first announced the events, and there's really unique programming. Again, I think you have to program for women, especially to the lesbian community, about things that they want and they have interest in. So this is one of the events is they're doing a comedy night. We've done a comedy night for Hollywood Pride for the last couple of years. Hosted with Dr. Anna Lepley. She brings a huge lesbian crowd. Again, I think this year I would say 3/4 of the room were lesbians.
Good.
And we had a couple lesbian comedians. But again, that was an event that brought lesbians out where I was like, where did these people come from? I've never seen them in downtown Hollywood. So I think there's also, if I'm correct, there's like a poetry reading night. So there's a lot of different programming. It's not about going to a club or to a bar,
Right.
And they are things that program to the women's community. So I think it's going to be successful, and I think we should also, you know, as gay men and other parts of our community should show up to support this as well, because we ask them to support a lot of our events.
Right.
Yeah, you know, lesbians love activism. You hit it right on the head. They always have been the activists in our community, taking up the issues that gay men weren't taking up, that we were followers for the lesbians to be front and center. But I think it's time for all you women out there to stop worrying about the activism part. Well, keep it up, but go have some fun. Come on out to some of these events and enjoy yourself, and bring out the women's community with you so we can all have some fun together.
Great. Well, we're excited for that, and that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing, and Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at the Wilton Women's Week on April 26th.
And of course, let's welcome tonight's lead anchor, Jeff Oliverio. Jeff's a financial advisor and certified financial planner with Truist Wealth in Fort Lauderdale. Jeff is one of the founders and president of the LGBTQ Plus Council. Jeff's the new issue of Hotspots magazine will be out on Thursday, April 10th. Tell me what's going on in the magazine this week.
Well, I'm on the cover. No, I'm not. Hotspots is celebrating.
Are you wearing a shirt?
Change, because that picture.
Hotspots is celebrating 40 years with a special winter edition coming this Thursday. The magazine is part of Hotspots Happening Out, the largest nonprofit LGBTQ media group in America. This new Hotspots issue is a special annual pet edition. The magazine covers entertainment features like one on Clue, which comes to the Kravis Center on April the 15th, on the Outshine LGBTQ Plus Film Festival starting on April 17th, and Les Miserables, which comes to the Kravis Center on April the 22nd. Being a pet special edition, the new issue features covers features like how to attract backyard birds with the right seeds, creating pet-friendly spaces, and dog grooming advice to keep pets clean and healthy. Don't miss the feature on the Pet Project. There is also an interview with the former police officer from the Hollywood Police Department who lost his job due to a role in adult film around 15 years ago, and his successful venture, Body Tech. And of course, you can read popular features like Deep Inside Hollywood, Hot Bodies, Hotspots Hotties, and What's Hot. Grab your free copy of Hotspots magazine on stands Thursday, April 10th, or you might miss all the fun. I would say I'm excited to see the feature on Mike Verdugo. The story of what happened with him in Hollywood, and again, being from Hollywood, the transformation for his own personal growth and career is a real success story. And also want to bring to light that the Hollywood Police Department has also come a long way in the last 15 years. Provides us with an LGBTQ resource police officer for all of our Hollywood Pride events, and has become a welcoming space for the LGBTQ community, where only 15 short years ago, someone of his nature and someone who really had an upstanding career with the Hollywood Police Department, nothing that ever did anything wrong was let go. So I think it's a good story to tell, and I'm glad Hotspots is covering that.
I think revisiting it is important because it was 15 years ago, and I'm also a Hollywood resident, and it is amazing that through the Hollywood LGBTQ plus council, that Hollywood got, was at 100% score for a city that's welcoming, and I know you had a lot to do with that.
Thank you.
I love the longevity of Hotspots. Yeah. This magazine has been around since I was 6, I think. It's been around.
Okay.
No, we don't. Gay men don't do math. Let's not even go there.
I'm Jewish. I do math.
So I mean, but I love how many years Hotspots just keeps going and bringing information and news to our community. Scott Holland, another guy I love that I hate to say it about, but it's a great magazine. It's been around. It supports us. It does so much for the community by bringing awareness and attention. Thanks for all the stuff at Hotspots.
Yeah, it's a resource, I think, for everybody in our community, and definitely go out and grab your copy on the newsstand. Free copy on the newsstands. And support all the businesses that do ads in there, please. Well, that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing, and Queer News Tonight looks forward to reading the new Hotspots magazine annual pet edition on April the 10th. Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Jeff Oliverio, and let's queer up trans rights. Trump administration creates anti-trans investigation team to root out schools' gender ideology. In a move LGBTQ advocates are calling dangerous and discriminatory, the Trump administration has launched a new Title IX Special Investigations Team, or SIT, to investigate schools for what they describe as, quote, the pernicious effects of gender ideology, end quote. That's the code for accepting transgender students. The announcement from the U.S. Departments of Justice and Education claims a, quote, staggering volume, end quote, of Title IX complaints have come in, prompting this creation of this team. Title IX, originally meant to ban sex-based discrimination in schools, has long been interpreted to protect transgender students. But this administration is pushing a narrow, birth-assigned binary view of gender. Attorney General Pamela Bondi said, quote, protecting women and women's sports is a key priority, end quote. While Education Secretary Linda McMahon added, quote, to all the entities that continue to allow men to compete in women's sports and use women's intimate facilities, there's a new sheriff in town, end quote. LGBTQ organizations like GLAAD are pushing back hard. Advocates for trans equality warned it's a political stunt that distorts the purpose of Title IX and harms trans youth. GLSEN's Melanie Willingham Jaggers called out the administration for gutting civil rights resources, while Catherine Oakley of the Human Rights Campaign called it, quote, just the latest episode of the Trump administration's obsession with attacking transgender lives, end quote. Queer community groups and the community say they will continue to fight and that trans students are protected by law. In the 10,000 stories that Queer News Tonight has done, I want to say that a third of them are about attacking the trans community. And this administration finds there's the well is deep for ways they try to come after the trans community. These again, organizations to root out people. Again, it's the trans community first. This is a playbook that has played out in
Time immemorial.
Yes,
History.
history,
but
and they're coming for, it's not just the trans community they're going to end up coming for.
What do they say? First they come for this group, then they come, and the next one they come for me,
And
right?
let's talk about the statistics specific to McMahon's comment about men in the women's sports. There are less than 10 openly trans athletes out of 530,000 college athletes. There are 10, less than 10. And then statistics.
That's a staggering statistic.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous to sit there and have 40 plus laws throughout the country from different states aimed at keeping transgendered students out of sports when we have Minnesota Representative Senator Justin Eichhorn, who just a few weeks ago was brought up on charges against child pornography and child endangerment because of his need to meet with an underage child for sexual predator. Then we also had in the last few weeks mega church pastor Robert Morris, who is one of Donald Trump's religious inner circle, also brought up on charges of sexual misconduct. It's amazing how those folks can get a pass, and yet you're sitting here trying to go after.
I'm sure you got that off of Fox News. Am I right about that?
I did.
They're the biggest hypocrites.
It's really sad. It's such a distraction because, like you just said, 10 people, which is a statistic I did not know. But it doesn't matter the number. The number is minuscule. Yet it's such a great talking point. It's such a rallying cry because they can use it. DeSantis started it and used it brilliantly to promote hate, to promote the diversity, and that's what they're using. The whole DEI thing is because they can find this little piece to give a lot of distraction and a lot of people a way to voice anger against a certain community. Right. And that's what it's always about. It's about anger.
And one last statistic, less than 0.09% of the total population of the United States is transgender. Out of 347 million people in the United States, less than 0.09%.
That too is a staggering statistic. But again, these are distractions to keep people, in a very vile place,
right,
in order to avoid having to confront a stock market that dropped. What did it do today, Jeff? You must know.
It was down.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's easier
4,000 points in days.
It's easier to hate than it is to love.
Well, I have a question. Gil, you're talking to, business leaders, and, again, talking today about this issue of bringing jobs back to the United States and the issues that, that Linda McMahon and the Department of Education should be focusing on, which is educating people. I would imagine you're hearing the biggest struggle that businesses are having is as a more educated workforce. I mean, our counterparts overseas are lapping us. I think they said a third of the population reads at a 6th grade level.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things that we've actually been hearing is workforce development, making sure that these, even including our underserved rural communities, have the resources to be able to go forward and groom these next generation of leaders to make sure we can go forward and actually be competitive in an innovative workforce. Right now, you're taking a look at certain sections of the country that still are battling with getting access to high-speed internet and broadband access. I want you to think about that. This is the year 2025. I think that should be a no-brainer by now.
We take it for granted.
And we take it for granted. It's one of those things we need to work on our core investments of making sure that we're able to prepare for an innovative workforce, and that is workforce development. And talking about, as you had mentioned, buddy, about the statistic of 0.9%. I remember
0.09%.
0.09%.
Not even a full percent.
I remember, I think it was sometime last year, the governor of Utah, I think his name is Spencer Cox, if I remember correctly, he had vetoed some legislation passed by the Republican supermajority. He himself is a Republican. His justification for vetoing the anti-trans legislation at the time was, this literally just singles out 4 students that play in high school sports in the state of Utah. It's one of those things where, and I think Andy Beshear, who's the governor of Kentucky, actually put it best when he vetoed anti-trans legislation. He had said, this is just about protecting one group of kids from being bullied by another group of kids.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But people need to do the math because this, the way the Republicans are going on politically, it's like 1 out of 2 people.
But everything they're doing is sensational.
Oh, of course it is. We know that tactic.
Right.
It's a rallying call and a distraction. I can say it over and over again. There's so many major changes going on in the Trump administration to our world, to our economy, to our government. And by focusing on this tiny, itty-bitty piece, all the people get angry and they love him and he can do whatever he wants.
Well, he's just feeding his base, but the base has got to change.
I agree.
Well, that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now, let's take a deep dive into the big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Mark Gilbert, and let's queer up drag culture. Liam Neeson does drag, and how about this? Strawberry panties. In the new Naked Gun trailer, Liam Neeson's got legs, and he's using them well in the most wild and hilarious twist. The 72-year-old action star ditches the tough guy routine for full-blown slapstick in the new trailer for the Naked Gun reboot. I love Naked Gun. Neeson plays Lieutenant Frank Drebin, the son of the iconic character originally portrayed by Leslie Nielsen. And who doesn't remember Leslie Nielsen in all those amazingly funny movies, my favorite being Airplane. But fans are doing a double take after seeing Neeson in his first scene dressed as a schoolgirl, complete with a plaid miniskirt and, yes, strawberry panties. The trailer revealed at cinema.com doesn't hold back. It shows Neeson battling a man with his own dismembered arms and teasing a steamy scene with Pamela Anderson. Isn't that quite what it seems, actually? Because you're going to find out when you watch the trailer. With a cast featuring Paul Walter Hauser, Kevin Durant, and Liza Koza, the Naked Gun reboot opens on August 1st, and queer community is living for this transformational video. Wish I could do that again.
Go! Multiple SWAT units responding to hostage situation.
Hey, little girl, stop! What do you want, little one? Your ass.
That's the sound of the police!
Who are you?
Frank Drebin, Police Squad. The new version.
That's the sound of the police!
Hi, Daddy. It's me, Frank Jr. Love you. Hey, Dad. Boy, do I miss you.
Sound of the police!
I love that trailer. That looks so exciting. I got to tell you, Naked Gun, I think all of us remember, was probably one of the most hilarious movies of the time, right? And seeing these guys doing a reboot, for me, I'm really, really happy about it. Jeff, did you see Naked Gun?
I did many times. It's probably one of the movies I've watched the most on repeat, and I'm a big Airplane fan as well. So that's for sure. And seeing Liam Neeson in a comic role, he's such a great actor, and he is. I've seen him in interviews. He's very funny as a
he does comedy well.
He does. He really does. And so I think it's going to be great. And Seth MacFarlane does does the best comedy I think out there. So. Should be exciting.
It's going to be a good time. It's going to be a great night to go to a movie, sit back, and get ready to laugh a lot.
Yeah, we need more laughs, that's for sure. Well, that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now, let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Gil Ponce, and let's queer up politics. Federal prosecutors want George Santos to serve 7 years in prison. The Justice Department is seeking a judge to sentence the disgraced former Congressman George Santos to 7 years behind bars after he pleaded guilty to wire fraud and aggravated identity theft this year. His lawyers have asked for a lighter 2-year sentence ahead of his official sentencing on April 25th. Santos, once hailed as a rare openly gay Republican in Congress, has spectacularly fallen from grace. He was expelled from Congress in 2023 after a damning House Ethics Committee report accused him of using campaign funds for personal luxuries, including OnlyFans subscriptions, designer goods, and Botox. He also admitted about lying on his education and work history, and even falsely claiming connections to the Pulse nightclub shooting and 9/11. The DOJ wrote, in quote, "From his creation of a wholly fictitious biography to his callous theft of money from elderly and impaired donors, Santos's unrestrained greed and voracious appetite for fame enabled him to exploit the very system by which we select our representatives. Despite once co-sponsoring anti-LGBTQ legislation and attacking queer families, Santos now seeks leniency. His lawyers argue that his crimes were nonviolent and that he cooperated in a separate investigation. He has since taken a cameo for income and briefly flirted with a return to politics as an independent, but backing out."
Where do we start?
As a former elected official, one, the spending campaign money on OnlyFans, if you're going to do something corrupt, do something a little bit, more extravagant than, spending on OnlyFans subscriptions. Like, quite frankly, it's one of those things, obviously, we can all agree. A fraud is a fraud is a fraud. He deserves some form of jail time. But at the same point, looking at the history of political corruption in this country, this is the first time I ever thought I'd ever hear the words campaign money and OnlyFans ever come out in the same sentence.
But this isn't about just being lenient and justifying what he did. I did a little research into pensions.
Mm-hmm.
If he gets sentenced 5 years or more, he loses his government pension. And this is a man that's driven by money and quote unquote success and all the things that success supposedly bring him. He's desperate to keep that governmental pension because it's substantial coming out of the U.S. taxpayers' pockets.
Well, what he's done, forget that, I mean, he's LGBTQ allegedly, like who knows for sure.
Which one is he?
I'm not sure which, pick an initial and a day, and I'm sure there's a bio that talks about it. But it's a bigger story in that, like, look what he convinced how many people in New York. It's sort of like Trump. How many people believed him, and he gets elected to a very high position in our government, basically let amok to like continue these lies. And when he finally is taken down, he should get some kind of jail time for it. And I don't really care about his pension because, to be honest, if it was anybody else, if you took out the LGBTQ portion of this, it's still a horrific story of what he did to the American people and the fraud that he's guilty of. So, none of us will claim him as one of our LGBTQ allies. Yeah.
He's one of the fraudsters of fraudsters. He's one of the absolute biggest frauds that have ever hit government or even hit our airwaves.
Oh, they're bigger right now.
No, not necessarily. Oh, yeah, I would all agree with you there. But he has, in every single category, he lied. He went through life being nothing but a fraud and a liar and a thief and a con artist. And 7 years to me, they say they want to make examples of people. You watch that in government. Oh, we're going to get this guy and make an example. Yeah. This is the guy you make an example of. He frauded the government. He frauded the people. He got elected. He should have never been in there in the first place. And I think putting him away from 25 years in a prison with all men, well, maybe he'd like that. No, well, never mind. I mean, that's where he belongs.
Well, I can only say that there is no justice when, I do hope he gets some jail time, but Matt Gaetz still gets to walk around, and again, has not been tried for crimes that are very evidently he committed and would have been tried for, and which include sexual assault and sexual trafficking, trafficking of women.
Well, we don't have to compare though necessarily.
Well, but I'm saying
they're mutually autonomous.
Is that if you go through just in the last few years, the biggest scandals that have happened in the Republican Party, and yet we have an innocent LGBTQ member of our community sitting in a Nicaraguan jail for without any kind of due process. So we have to just put things in perspective of what's happening in this country. I mean, we all can say that George Santos is the scum of the political world, and he's, persona non grata in the LGBTQ community. But he's another distraction about real problems that are happening. And yes, I think he should go to jail, and I think he should pay his time. But really, I just think he should just go away.
Right. He doesn't deserve the airtime we're giving him.
He doesn't deserve the airtime, but he also doesn't deserve a light sentence. And that 5 years is going to hurt him to the day he dies. So give him 7 years, and let's just go move on.
Yeah. I mean, the other option is we could throw him and all of, these Republicans that get thrown out of office onto maybe a Naked and Afraid season and just let them go at it on an island somewhere and see how that works out.
They'd just cry.
And yet,
well, that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer and nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Glenn Weinzimmer, and let's queer up the worldview. J.K. Rowling calls Asexuality Day Fake Oppression Day. A creator responds. The co-creator of International Asexuality Day, Yasmin Benoit, is speaking out after author J.K. Rowling sparked controversy over the weekend by mocking asexuality on social media. On April 6th, Rowling took to Twitter to ridicule those marking International Asexuality Day, saying they're just people, quote, who want complete strangers to know they don't fancy a shag, end quote. The Harry Potter author followed up with several posts further questioning whether asexual people can really know if they're gay or straight, confusing asexuality with aromantic identities and generally dismissing the validity of ace experiences. Benoit, a leading UK asexual activist, told Pink News, quote, a lot of people's introduction to International Asexuality Day has now been through J.K. Rowling's hating on it. It's becoming a conversation in so many spaces I haven't seen before, but for a negative reason. She kind of hijacked the occasion, end quote. Benoit described a wave of online abuse since Rowling's comments went viral. She says the backlash proves why asexual activism is essential. Queer News Tonight shared a news report yesterday on the study Benoit co-authored with King's College London that showed alarming statistics of 11% of Brits not believing asexual people exist. Despite the hate, Benoit says she's also seen solidarity online. She continues to advocate for legal protections for asexual people in the UK, protections that are currently non-existent. It's an interesting story to me because what you do in your bedroom, we talk about all the time, is your personal business. And if you do nothing in your bedroom, that's still your personal business. And I really don't know how this is a group. I mean, I understand it, but I have a little trouble, maybe you guys can help me with, why asexual people need necessarily their own designation, like everyone else under the LGBTQ, AI, or IA plus communities. I mean, it's just their choice for sex. You don't have, well, you do have leather groups and stuff like that, but it just seems like, I don't know why they would want to be highlighted and why anyone would care what they're doing.
Well, I'm totally with you on that. And when you look at people that perceive gay people as people that are having sex in a bedroom, we are not those people. We are not advocating to have sex anywhere. We're advocating for our rights to be with who we want to be with.
Right.
And it's a very different condition. We never talk about what we do in the bedroom. It's nobody's business. Well, we might talk about it with each other,
who you
but overall,
it's a good Saturday night or a Sunday morning with a newspaper and a cigarette, which I don't even smoke.
But
sex
doesn't define us.
At the Floridian.
It's not who we are as a group. It's not who we are as a culture. It might be what we do in our private moments, just like being heterosexual. The sex you have doesn't define you.
I don't want to hear about
I'm
that
not sure. I'm not sure why this becomes a day, and what kind of protections are they looking for? I don't know.
I kind of got the impression by reading and doing a little homework here that this isn't about.
You're a good homework guy.
I do my homework.
He does.
I think this tends to be more like where the gay pride was in its early days, where it's about we're here.
So it's an acknowledgement of a group that...
It's an acknowledgement of a group of people that exist, and it's also a way, because the numbers are so small in terms of the group of identifying as asexual, they're just saying, look, there are people like you out there. You are not alone in this.
Isn't anyone in a long-term relationship eventually asexual anyway?
Well, yeah, that's called marriage after 30 years.
Right, I'm like, whatever, I'll catch it tomorrow.
But I was thinking when the word protections was used for this group, as I thought is again as a as a gay or lesbian or as a trans person, there are parts of your life that you would literally have to hide, whether it's in the workplace, you might not put pictures on your desk, proverbial desk or whatever, wherever you might work, or for a trans person to just show up being who they in their true identity.
Right.
For an asexual person, and I guess maybe that's not the protections they're looking for, but I'm thinking this is not something that would ever come into the workplace because you would never have to talk about this.
And your frame would be blank.
And there's no way to identify someone who's asexual. So I believe in representation, and I believe every group should be able to represent, and if it's the...
And it doesn't mean an asexual person, forgive me for jumping in, is not in love or doesn't have a partner.
Yes.
It's just the act of what we consider part of a relationship isn't as important to them as other parts of the relationship. So it doesn't mean they're home and lonely. I would imagine, with, again, not having done any major research on it, that they're just like everybody else
Is the purpose of it to meet other asexual people?
You're asking me that as a question that I'm an expert on? I don't know, Dr. Walters.
What little I could find, it didn't really identify any of that. It just said that they're just trying to reach out to other people in the same asexuality, if I can use that word.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for community support, which, I think that's, again, part of our community is we are inclusive of all different...
Right, our identity is about sexuality. So,
absolutely.
But the biggest thing with this whole story that irritates me is, yet J.K. Rowling gets to sit there and mouth off again, like, I'm sorry, but who the fuck cares?
Well, she's bringing attention to something that nobody cares about, to your point.
Well, but I mean, and I understand that, but anything she has to write...
She's a professional internet troll.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
she's wealthy and she has nothing else to do because she hasn't put out anything since...
I think she's
Harry
like the
Potter.
Roseanne Barr of the UK.
Right.
Like, when she went off and got canceled.
Only not as attractive.
Then she became, just trolling every other thing.
She's got nothing else to do. She can't write any other books. Nobody cares.
Yes.
So it is what it is.
I care less about J.K. Rowling than I do about Asexuality Day by far.
Do you think that's a little bit of a distraction for our community? I kind of wonder. I kind of wonder if maybe people listen to that and go, and then there's those gays that are sleeping with men, and then there's those women that are sleeping with women or whatever. I wonder if then we start identifying groups by what they do in the bedroom instead of who they are as a person completely and fully.
I kind of feel where I defend it is, how do you find other people like yourself? So, you go out into the public and you're out with friends and you're asexual, but everyone you meet wants to take you home and have sex with them. And you're like, that's not what I really, and so how do you identify other people like me? So if you are identifying and joining a group of people under a certain label, a flag, or whatever we want to call it, then you're at least amongst people that are in the same mindset. So when you go to find a partner, you've narrowed it down to people that are more like you. And so maybe you're more likely to find somebody who feels the same way you do. And it's not a conflict in the relationship because you're highly sexual and the other person is completely asexual. And there's always this tension. So there is that side of it where having said what I said earlier, it makes sense that they might want to have some way to find each other.
Some sort of identity where it's not an embarrassment.
Here's an honest story.
I want to know what the flag is going to look like because we're running out of ideas.
Flag.
Here's an honest story. A few years back, I was on Grindr. And there was a guy, I only did it for a day.
Whatever.
It just happened to be one day. So I was on Grindr, and there was this pretty hot guy that we just got along great. And we were talking for a couple weeks. Did I say one day? I meant a couple of weeks. I meant a month.
You have
month.
an annual
I think it was a month.
Come on.
And we started talking, and finally he said to me, I just want you to know I like you. You're a nice guy, but we're not going to have sex. I go, no, you're the first person to tell me that. But we start talking, he said, no, it's not you. He said, I broke up with my partner 3 years ago, and I have not had sex with anybody, and I'm not having sex with anybody. So, of course, I pushed the envelope a little bit, but it went nowhere. And
And then there was
surprisingly, I never met him.
And a restraining order.
How did that get out? How did that word get out?
No means no.
No, but it ended up that I decided not to meet him.
Right.
And so it's a full circle.
Right. So the story then makes a little bit more sense.
Not a lot, but a little.
Okay.
Well, good conversation. And that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Buddy Fry, and let's queer up entertainment. This Coco, Peru mid-century modern scene was deleted, and here's why. In a twist that's left fans both delighted and dismayed, legendary drag icon Coco Peru has resurfaced digitally, at least after her scene was cut from the pilot of Hulu's Mid-Century Modern. Though Coco appeared on set and filmed her lines, her moment never made it to the screen. Actor Matt Bomer told the Los Angeles Times the cut scene was his favorite bit from that first episode, but fed into, quote, one joke that proved to be too racy, end of quote. The joke? A mishap involving spilt drinks and jizz. Coco herself explained, I worked for 2 weeks on the show, and because the show had to be shortened, my scenes were cut even before started filming. Perhaps jokes about jizz just aren't Hulu's thing. The show's creator Max Muchnick and David Conan, who also worked with Coco on Will and Grace, were equally heartbroken. Muchnick wrote, quote, sometimes we were forced to cut a character we love because of time constraints, end of quote. But in a surprising move, the deleted scene was released on Instagram. As Coco serves up a drink called a slow fin jizz, prompting Arthur to question, don't you mean a slow gin fizz? Coco fires back, sweetheart, take a look around. I meant what I said. Well, of course Coco had that line. Come on. Come on, that's a perfect line. But it is kind of sad, but it was smart to release it on Instagram because now we can all enjoy it and we can all giggle and laugh and have a good interest, and it sure brings in a new people to see the show if they haven't already seen it. It's an amazing little
It's a great show.
I just wish they'd quit comparing it to Golden Girls because it's not Golden Girls.
Okay, well, his name is Bunny, and the other one is Art. So B. Arthur is right there. The way the stage is
That's
set
just
up,
coincidental.
yeah, whatever. I mean, they come in from the left, they cut across to the kitchen, the background is the backyard. Other than the fact that they're in Palm Springs, it's the exact same set, and almost everything happens in the kitchen around the table.
Let it be its own show. Let it be its own show.
But it's brilliant. It's almost like watching Broadway. It's like watching Hot in Cleveland.
Yes.
Bringing back people you haven't seen in ages that are just classic characers
and
from
Linda
that we know.
Lavin, God bless
Linda
her.
Lavin, and they did a great job because no secret, Linda Lavin recently died. And one of the last episodes of the first season, they have to do a tribute to her because she's the mom that's playing a major role in this show. And they did a brilliant job of paying tribute to her. Because for a second I forgot she had died, and I was like, did she really die?
Yeah.
And looked it up. But it's a great show. It's great slapstick. It's great one-liners. I can picture all of us with our closest friends with these comebacks of, bitch, please.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
What's equally interesting, we talked earlier about aging gay men or anybody in the community as they age. We kind of evaporate. We kind of fade into the background and become invisible. And it's kind of nice that as funny as it is, and all the quick little one-liners and all the silliness of it all, it also kind of respectfully brings older gay gentlemen, gives them presence that we're, it's a comedy, but we're not the joke. We're the ones making the joke. We're no longer the punchline.
Yeah.
And I kind of appreciate that a lot. And even like Linda Lavin, it's kind of fun to make fun of the stereotypic Jewish mom, but she was she had some good moments of, a lot of heart given out there and a lot of love. So it's nice to see that.
I mean, the creators of the show, you compare it to Broadway. If you even just go back to watch like a Will and Grace episode, it doesn't play like a sitcom would play today at all. It does feel like a Broadway show. And I'm assuming, just as Will and Grace did, they're going to be experts at bringing in so many guest stars into this mix of people. There's a lot of, they're really good at bringing in, from anyone from Cher, on Will and Grace. I mean, there were so many
cameos.
Guests. I mean, cameos on Will and Grace can go on and on and on, and so I'm sure they're going to be able
Cleveland,
to do
that was one of their big things, that they had all the great comedians and funny people from the past that suddenly reappeared and kind of brought to light. There's a lot of jokes in there that if you're a younger person, you would have no idea what they're referring to.
Right.
If they talk about Monica Lewinsky or whatever it might be, you're like, did they get that? Because it is so time sensitive or time appropriate for those of an older age that have, experienced things that the younger people just don't know.
You would have only seen Will and Grace in repeats, I assume, because you're
29.
Yes.
29.
Yes. Pointed out earlier.
Yes, but one of the things...
No one hits you, by the way, at the table,
Not
much.
much.
One of the things I definitely have thought about when it came to the story, and first off, I will say for anybody who hasn't watched Mid-Century Modern, highly recommend it. Yeah. I watched it over the course of an entire weekend. I have no shame in saying that out loud. But in terms of crossing the line, that is not the raciest thing we have seen on TV lately. No. Has anybody been paying attention to White Lotus?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Far and away.
That is something, I watched that episode and I was like, okay, we definitely crossed a line there. This pretty tame compared to that.
Oh, yeah.
All right, no one kill me here.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to say something about Nathan Lane. All right, Nathan Lane's over-the-top character and everything that he does is what we love about Nathan Lane. I just felt he was a little too over the top, even for Nathan Lane in the series. Anybody feel that?
I have not watched the series yet, so I will take note of that. That it was sad that this show would have been I think a perfect format for a Leslie Jordan, who sadly passed away also. And the last show that Leslie Jordan was on, I cannot think of the name of that show. It was
Call Me Kat.
Call Me Kat was. I mean, he was. So underrated on that show and didn't get, I think he should have got Emmy attention for his comic portrayal. He would have been a perfect character on a show like this.
And I'm sure it's a gamble for any of the writers. Then they choose older characters, especially if they're leads like a Betty White, that they're in their 90s and like any day you can get a call to say they're not back and what do you do with the show? Especially if they're playing a lead role, Right. But it's such a delightful, funny, loving show, and I highly recommend it.
I think it's so cool that a show like that is on Hulu. Okay, and I think it's so wonderful that it's appealing to, like you said, a Will and Grace, to a cross-section of people that will watch it and see real gay characters, not pretending to be gay, but real gay, a little over the top, but real gay characters portraying some really funny stuff. And I'm really glad to finally see something like that.
Like Golden Girls, with heart and with commentary that is relevant to the times that we live in,
about real people,
and they're touching on subjects that, Golden Girls, that touched on that is great to hear them talk about things that and bring them up about whatever it might be. He's got a great relationship with his sister, and just that whole family thing. And there's one really good line in there where he says something about, she said something about disappointment or whatever it was, Linda Lavin, and he said, so if I just started doing that 3, I could have just avoided this whole thing. And she left the room like, I'm out of here if you're going to talk about that. That's all I needed to know. I wish I knew that when I was 3. I could have gotten rid of her a long time ago. But
yeah, but it's also important that the premise of the story is that these 3 gentlemen, even if the youngest one is in his 40s, which makes me laugh, they're talking about how gay men age without family.
Yeah.
And the concept of bringing families, or creating that family. And, and especially in Palm Springs, one of the most gay-friendly communities in the country, with one of the few LGBTQ retirement communities that I know of.
Right.
So I think it's touching on a lot of things, even if it is there's a few characteristic moments where, Matt's a little too dumb to be taken serious, but
Betty White.
Sorry. Yeah. But, it is what it is, and it's a lot. It's nice to have that representation that's closer to reality than ever before.
That's great. Well, that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. Those are today's headlines from Queer News Tonight. These anchors represent the best of our LGBTQ and ally community.
If our community is important to you, Share this news with your friends and family. Join the conversation on your favorite streaming platform.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines.
We need your support. If our community is to grow and then thrive, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Jeff Oliverio, and on behalf of these LGBTQ reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Mark Gilbert, Gil Ponce, Glenn Weinzimmer, and Buddy Fry, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. To our LGBTQ world, we hope you will join us by embracing love, generosity, bravery, be transformative, and queer. Good night.